the Aleut speaking. Half underground, an area hollowed out, framework of driftwood and or whalebone, covered with sod. And this is an actual representation of an actual house. And you can see the entrance, which is sort of a tunnel, and then you went down into the house. And you really can see when it was covered with snow, it looked like your picture of an igloo. The heat and light came from this contraption that burned sea mammal oil, and that was all they had for heat and light. But another type of housing was a coal trap entrance, which means a separate entrance, a tunnel underground, and you came up through the floor. And that was called a coal trap entrance, because you all know cold air sinks, hot air rises. It was warm enough in their houses that the Eskimo-speaking people didn't wear their clothing in their house, maybe a loincloth. And that's always hard for me to say because I chill easily, and that had to have been told because of permafrost. But they did not wear their clothing, and we in the museum, we show you the clothing because we're a museum. We want you to see the clothing. The other thing is, if the truth be told, we do a lot of school tours. The man's got his hunting clothing on, and the child has got his father's arrows, which are blunt. That means that the hunter could go and get a big bird or a small animal with a blunt arrow, knock it unconscious, approach it, and kill it. No holes in the pelts. Because with all of that wind chill and the cold temperatures and everything, which lasted, remember, about 9 months, they had to have clothing that fit the human body and made out of quality pelts or whatever. And so the women had to know how to cut the pelts and make sleeves, trousers, torso, hood, fit the human body. Other early peoples that you hear about had robes, but robes don't do it in that kind of climate up there. So that was part of their technology that was pretty spectacular. But pelts, and you've already seen gut, they were not the only materials that people used. Other times people would use bird, and this flat parka down here, this is actually bird skin. It is out of cormorants, and there's more than 40 cormorant skins in this one parka. And anytime you have to kill 40 critters and then process the pelts or the skins or whatever, and then sew them together, you can see how much work went into them. The one in the back, on the back wall, is fish skin. Now, bird skin kept them warm, just like the animals did. And the fish skin was more for the wetness, kind of a little bit more like the gut. And that happens to be a child's, but adults also wore fish skin parkas. One of the readings I did, the man was going to wear a fish skin parka because he had to get a message from village A to village B. Speed was of the essence, and and his parka came from a particularly fast swimming fish. Now, all of our native people were what we call animists, and I'm using the word animal like animal, vegetable, mineral. So animal includes birds and fish as well as four-footed critters. And the animists believed that it was animals that were responsible for humans being on this earth. All of our native peoples had something in their creation story that had to do with animals. Frequently the raven bird, but animal. And they all believed it was animals that kept humans, allowed humans to remain on this earth because they gave themselves to the people. So if the hunter went out and found this moose or whale or whatever, he believed that the animal presented itself to the human. The human then had the right to kill it, but he had to be respectful. There was a lot of taboo and a lot of ritual that went into taking care of the dead animal and everything. And that was part of their whole mindset, and part of where they were coming from was animal. And thank goodness for the animals, they said, because they're what have kept us alive. Now, the early Eskimo-speaking peoples, their contact with the newcomers depended where they were. The ones that were way up north on the Arctic Ocean, it was the whalers. The ones that were further south along the Gulf of Alaska, it was the Russians. And the ones that were further to the west, which were the Yupik speakers, it was a lot later and not as intense because they didn't have the resources that the newcomers wanted. Now, the next and last group of native indigenous people I'm going to talk about are the Athabascans, and they're right behind me. I'm going to go between this post and the case. You are more than welcome to follow me, or otherwise, please go around one of the cases and meet me right back here.